A journey to where nature is at her most magnificent and forbidding. To mysterious places where dazzling and diverse cultures flourish. Where China's numerous ethnic groups draw you into a world of color and vibrancy. Where distinct lifestyles, traditions, and crafts have survived the test of time. Join Travelogue on its 17-part ethnic Odyssey, visiting more than 100 places across China. Ethnic Odyssey, an enlightened look at China's rich ethnic heritage.
In this episode, we journey through the Altai Mountains in search of grassland. We live among the Kazakh people, and we take our chances in a ghost town. Variety of China's landscape, diversity of its people. Welcome to Travelogue's Minority series. I'm Michelle Lean, and I'll bet that you haven't heard of the Hasaka minority. Well, I hadn't at least. Not up till recently, anyway. I'm going to be living with them on the grasslands in Nalari, Xinjiang. We begin our trip on the Nalari grasslands, north of the Tian Shan Mountains. In Xinjiang, the climate to the north of the Tian Shan Mountains is very different from what is on the south side. Up north, we're surrounded by grassland, while the south is made up mostly of the Gobi and is extremely dry. The region north of the Tian Shan Mountains is home to the Kazakh people, known for their nomadic lifestyle and superb skill at rearing livestock. On these beautiful grasslands breathing the fresh mountain air, it's not hard to imagine that the livestock must be of the finest quality. They're also keen horse riders and start riding pretty much as soon as they learn to walk. When they travel, the Kazakh people strap their houses on the backs of camels and horses. Their homes are made of a wooden frame that's easy to set up and take apart, and it fits their nomadic lifestyle. Once they arrive at their destination, the women unpack and set up home again. The songs and dances of the Kazakh people echo through the air. I don't really know what they're singing about, but I can really sense the joy in their voices and in their movement. We drive down a long and winding road through magnificent grasslands and past traditional Kazakh dwellings. The Kazakh people live in decorated canvas huts supported by a wooden framework. As I gaze at the sights of the Narati grasslands, I find myself daydreaming about life as a Kazakh, moving from place to place. The peaceful surroundings seem to dispel all worries. I really recommend the drive. The air is fresh and brisk without any form of pollution. The sweet smells from the vegetation even get inside the car. This must be one of the most relaxing and scenic drives ever. The Hasaka people have tremendous respect for eagles. They see them as a symbol of bravery and freedom. This magnificent feathered friend here is definitely a hunter's best companion. Eagles in all their grace and magnificence are a symbol of the Kazakh people. The feathers decorate the hats of Kazakh women. These girls, wearing their decorated hats, are bidding their sister farewell. She's getting married soon, so she'll be leaving home. They begin by singing a sad song about how much they'll be missing her. Of course, it's never easy for sisters to say goodbye, especially when they'll be living a long way apart. But they manage to reminisce about their happy childhood, and they express it in this song. Outside, the sound of horses approaching announces the arrival of the best men. They've come with an invitation to the bride, also delivered in song. Their songs are about the coming union and how the two families will soon be joined. Then it's time for the invitation. The bride is asked to return with them to the groom's home to pay respects to the elders and seal the marriage in a ceremony. In the past, it was considered that the further a girl had to travel to marry, the more fortunate she was. The downside was that living in their different nomadic communities, it was unlikely she'd see much of her own family again, if at all. How beautiful was that wedding? It was especially touching when they started to cry. It was just so sweet. Well, now they're about to embark on a really long journey to the couple's new home with their families in tow. But in Hakka tradition, what happens is they will bring cows and sheep and horses, gifts from the bride's family, to their new home so that they can start a new life. Let's go be part of the entourage. It's a long, hard journey. It's hard also to imagine how the bride must be feeling. On the one hand, she has left her family to go and live far away in a place she has probably never seen, with no idea what to expect. On the other hand, she's embarking on an adventure, starting a new life, and no doubt, a new family. The bridal party, when it arrives at the groom's house, is greeted with yogurt and sweets, symbols of happiness. The guests all make a grab for the happiness on offer. The song is all about a beautiful girl who has come from far away to greet her parents-in-law and her new family. Now that the ceremonies are over, we can really celebrate. And you know what? The groom's been slaving in the kitchen all day, so he really deserves to party. Buck the book. Look how beautiful the bride is. Buck the book. I'm gonna join in now. We're gonna celebrate Hakka style. The singers' joyful voices fill the air, and the lively tempo of the music soon gets everyone on their feet. One of the nice things about a Kazakh wedding is that it's up to you if you want to join in, or you can just sit and happily listen to the music. The bride and groom enjoy the first of many dances together while their family and friends dance around them. Our next stop is Sarim Lake. The name Sarim in Mongolian means the backbone of the upper mountain. The Kazakhs who live here are clustered in small communities around the water, tending to their sheep and horses. In these parts, you'll always find friendly Kazakh nomads wherever there's plenty of water and grass. I reckon I deserve a day off. It's time to sit back, get a tan, and watch the sheep graze. Oh, ni hao. Ooh, cute Hazuka's boy is asking me to ride with him. I will. I think I will. Whoa. Oh. A little bit harder to get up from here. Okay. Hey. While we ride together, Jahe tells me about his life. It turns out he is enlisting in the army next year to see more of the world. From Sarum Lake, we traveled to Karamai in search of a famous ghost town. It's known for its magnificent scale and, well, for its movie star status. If you've ever seen Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or Choi Hark's The Seven Swords, you'll probably recognize the ghost town of the world. It's located 100 kilometers northeast of the city of Karamai. And apart from being a famous filming location, the ghost town of the world is a surreal place. 100 million years ago, it was a lake surrounded by trees and all sorts of living creatures. Nowadays, it's a desert covered with mysterious rock formations created during years of weathering. When it's windy here, which is pretty much all year round, and the wind passes through here, there's a sound like wailing ghosts and howling wolves, hence the name Ghost Town. The nickname might be a little creepy, but the truth is, there's nothing scary about this place. Instead, it's a fascinating area full of rock formations that resemble palaces, archways, and old towers, and you can really let your imagination run wild here. Next, we go by car along the winding route from Karamai to Burton, a town in Altai. We're off in search of the famous Bay of Five Colors. During the journey, we're all trying to guess what it'll look like. And that should keep our mind off the long drive ahead. The Bay of Five Colors lie on the Irtyx River. It's easy enough to pick out 3 colors, and if you strain your eyes a little, you should be able to see all 5. The layers of colored rock merge into one another, and it's a real sight to behold. When the sun sets, it casts a red glow on the bay and river, and I hear this is the best time to see it, as you'll be able to see the bay at its best. From here, I have an excellent view of the color transformation before nightfall. It is a dazzling sight, and as I walk with the wind in my hair, it's hard to believe just how beautiful our world can be. Oh my. Okay, we're up in Altai Mountains and it's so hard to get across. Check it out. We had to make our own road. But, you know, I think it might just be worth it if we get to see how the Hasaka people move upwards to the grasslands. Time to travel up to Habaha in the Altai Mountains.
While we're on the road, we see the first groups of Kazakh people on the move. They travel several times a year in search of greener pastures for their flock and according to the changes in the weather. Our destination is Haba County, Naran Grassland, where we've been invited to stay with a Kazakh family.
I don't even know how we're gonna get across. Let's just hope that the water down there isn't too deep. It's so cold. My driver's ditched us for the night, so we're gonna be here following the Hasaka nomads from Altai in Altai. At least I know that once I get into one of those homes, it's gonna be really warm. So really good for us. The great thing is we're gonna be able to follow them. So how's that for a different traveling experience? Oh, wow. Almost got a splinter there. Ooh, I did get a splinter. You don't have to help out when you stay at a Hasaka home, but I figured, you know what, since I'm here, I might as well, help out and make myself useful. This fire's so warm. Good thing. Okay, I'm not gonna split the wood anymore. Just shove it in there.
Please.
Oh, just This is so much fun. We're gonna eat here, and then after that, they're gonna take away this dinner mat, and we're gonna sleep here tonight. And it doesn't matter that there's no power, because even though we're going by one light bulb, they're gonna remove the cover later on, and we're gonna be able to see the stars. I'm so excited. Okay, more eating. So good.
It's sunrise, and everyone's set to move. They organize their livestock with a little help from their sheepdogs and horses. A family always travels together, either with or without other families. The journey is long, and everyone has his or her own responsibilities. The women travel in front with the children and belongings, and the men keep an eye on the livestock at the rear. They've allowed me to come along, so this is my chance to get a taste of nomadic life.
The family that I was staying with has just given me a traditional Hasaka outfit so that I look the part when I'm traveling with them. See, the woman travels first with the house and the stove that you see here and everything that you need to rebuild the home, so that when the men arrive with the sheep and the horses, there's food on the table and there's a place for them to stay and it's warm. Ha!
In parts, the trail is steep and dangerous. So dangerous, in fact, that our cameraman couldn't get a shot of us riding up. But having come in my car along bumpy roads, to be quite honest, I'd rather ride. At one point, a sheep fell down a cliff and broke its leg. The owner rescued it and put it in a basket, which he tied to a horse. Well, that's one way of getting a more comfortable journey. We cross the mountain, and once we arrive, it's time to set up camp. The women ride in front so they can arrive first, prepare the home, and have dinner ready by the time the men get in.
I couldn't help them out earlier because I was watching out for the kids, but now that we've arrived at our destination, we've got to set up home. Not it in. There you go. Jackson. Says it's good. Home sweet home. Now that we've gotten here, set up the house, and made sure everything's pretty, it's time for us to get in there and relax Finally, it's been such a long journey. Go in. Lai. We need something to drink. Ah.
It's time to part from my Kazakh friends and head to Kanas Lake, famous for its vivid color and shades of aqua and turquoise. This beautiful lake, covering 46 square kilometers, is actually made up of 6 bays.
Every year, millions of people take this walk up this mountain just to be able to get a glimpse of Canis Lake. It's so beautiful. Can't tell you enough how beautiful it is. Just perfect shade of aqua. Wait for me, sorry. Hey. 你们好，对不起。大家好。你好。
The boat hits the sparkling water, and for a moment, the calm here is broken.
Man, this is so great. I've got the sun in my face, and I'm surrounded by a crazy amount of color. Greens and oranges and yellows of the trees and the aqua of the water. Oh, it's just so relaxing.
Being here on the Kanas feels like a dream. On the north side are Kazakhstan and Russia, and to the east is Mongolia. Kanas Lake is 1,340 meters above sea level, and you can get the most breathtaking view of it by climbing right to the top of the Kanas Geopark. The lake itself is a magnificent combination of shades of blue. Looking at it, I can't help but think of the sea, and I'm almost tempted to dive in despite the cold. But there's more to do here than just stare at the view. If it takes your fancy, you can go for a speedboat ride, or walk around and just enjoy the natural scenery. Then again, you can always go whitewater rafting. Time to take advantage of those rapids. You probably can't tell, but it's freezing cold, and the splashing water sends shivers down our spines. Of course, that didn't stop our playful Kazakh companions from splashing us with even more water from their oars. Whitewater rafting is crazy fun. The trick to getting it right, though, is to lean back and row. Only when the instructors tell you, though. And we are not rowing. Just sit back, relax, and watch as the world goes by. Now that we've had our fun, it's time to get dry and check out the town of Hamu. Tonight, we'll be staying at a Tuva guest house, which sort of looks like a log cabin. In fact, it's half buried to keep out the winter cold. The Tuva people are Mongolian by origin, but live a Kazakh lifestyle. They're believed to be the offspring of Genghis Khan's army when he was heading west on his conquest. It's a small town. There aren't many people, but they're all pretty friendly. The main mode of transport is still the horse, and even though some people have cars, the roads are better suited for their equestrian friends. The Kazakh and Tuva people share the same customs and lifestyle, and as a result, are able to live side by side quite peacefully. The kids here learn to ride early, Or in this kid's case, they pretend to.
You've got a runny nose. Look at that. You've got booger coming out of
It's
your
not
nose.
often that I get to visit such a quaint town, and I'm having so much fun just walking around people watching.
Come here. Oh, yay! You got free! I'm free!
I even meet two cheerful little angels who insist on introducing me to their mother. She's friendly and I get talking to her. They're a Kazakh family who raise horses for a living. 3 generations of the family live here together. The children obviously love the extra attention, and while everyone else is talking, the little girl shows me their home, including the guest rooms, which is usually off limits to her and her brother. But it's okay as long as I don't tell. The deal is, though, I'm not allowed to show anyone else. I guess you're just gonna have to visit yourself if you want to take a look at their guest room. All in all, the town is delightful, the family is beautiful, and it's hard to say goodbye, but I must.
Northern Xinjiang has such a picturesque landscape. Sometimes it feels as if an artist's palette has been thrown across this earth, from the blues of the skies, the greens, yellows, and oranges of the trees, and the various colors down below of the Hazaka people who live on the land. It's been such a great journey. Sometimes I feel as if, I wasn't even here because it's so beautiful. But I was, and so were you. Thanks for watching Travelogue's Minority series. I'll catch you next time.
A journey to where nature is at her most magnificent and forbidding. To mysterious places where dazzling and diverse cultures flourish. Where China's numerous ethnic groups draw you into a world of color and vibrancy. Where distinct lifestyles, traditions, and crafts have survived the test of time. Join Travelogue on its 17-part ethnic Odyssey, visiting more than 100 places across China. Ethnic Odyssey, an enlightened look at China's rich ethnic heritage.
In this episode, we wrestle our way through Inner Mongolia, racing from grasslands to forest.
Variety of China's landscape, diversity of its people. Welcome to Travelogue. Welcome to Inner Mongolia. This episode will show you how great the people so-called living on the back of a horse. All right, let's go.
The Mongolian minority is one of the few remaining horse-based cultures in the world. Because of their nomadic lifestyle, horses play a very important role in their daily lives. In most places in Inner Mongolia, the horse is still the main mode of transport. And from the age of 3, children are able to ride. Ask any Mongolian person and they will tell you just how much they cherish their horse. Chances are they'll also be able to tell you stories or sing songs based on them. A favorite pastime in Mongolian cultures is horse racing, and children are often the jockeys, because they believe that a race is one based not on the rider's ability, but rather the horse's. The pace of life here is set by the speed of the horse, and a young man's eligibility is measured by his skill as a horseman. If you think that you are a good rider, I dare you to ride with a Mongolian. You might not feel the same way after. Another popular sport is wrestling. We're not talking about the WWF, because there's nothing fake about this. In Inner Mongolia, wrestling is one of the 3 manly skills, aside from horse riding and archery. Genghis Khan was convinced that wrestling was a useful way to keep his army in shape, and also a means of eliminating political rivals. The object of a match is to get your opponent to touch his back, knee, or elbow to the ground. In Inner Mongolia, they're a little bit more relaxed about the rules, and if any part of your body, aside from your feet, touch the ground, you've lost the match. It's not easy, especially when there's no weight classes or time limit in a match. When a winner finally emerges, he moves to the next round with a new opponent. Of course, there are rules, and the wrestler ain't allowed to strike, strangle, or lock their opponent's legs. I am suggesting that a hit below the belt is also not allowed.
This is interesting sports. This is in Mongolia. You gotta get involved. There's all the sports. You get a horseback ride. And lots of fun. You gotta get involved. Come on.
Don't be fooled by the build of this man. They might be stouts, but they are skilled. And if you try to pass a fast one on them, like this guy did, chances are they will take you down quicker than you can say, "Let's dance."
Let's talk about it. How you like it? Where are you from?
Italy.
Italy? Oh, great. How you like it? This is get involved. You get to be part of it.
Good workout, huh?
Good workout.
Good workout.
Yeah, all those people. I think you picked the strongest one.
Yeah, he picked me.
Oh, he picked you. Why were you up with the girl?
You go for it. Go for it, please.
No, I can. I know I can. So this is a great part. You know, everybody get involved. Everybody be part of it. That's more fun. Look around. All these people here. Whatever you want, you can come over.
These vast lands don't always allow for much company, so this shepherd was more than happy to sit a while and chat. He tells me that the Mongolian minority are natural survivors and a strong and proud group. Most people think that Mongolians are nomadic and rely on rare livestock. But in the old days, their ancestors who lived in the forests up north were hunters, and they adapted their life according to the environment change. In late autumn and winter is near, time for the farmers to start preparing stacks of hay for their livestock. In Mongolian tradition, it's important to care for one's cattle, even if it sometimes means going to extremes. In this wide open space and long roads, you will often find drivers beeping their horns from as far away as 200 meters to chase off any cattle that may be on the road. And if the cow can't hear them, they will either drive around or wait till they finally cross. Now, that's a privilege not allowed farm animals around the world can say they enjoy. Out there, there's not much need for traffic police, so it's a good thing the cows are around to act as a speed trap. In Mongolia, you often find wired fences in the fields. Don't be deterred by them. It's not there to keep people out, but rather to keep the animals in. And if you're not part of the livestock, the Mongolian people are bound to invite you into their homes and offer you a drink or many drinks.
Here is a unique location. It's a tourist spot called Hunglet that shows Mongolian lifestyle inside. But that name is very unique because to every Mongolian, Hunglet means a lot. There's a lot of beautiful girls used from that area. Even Kyrgyzstan used to marry one.
You won't find many large stones on the grassland, but when you spot one this big and of this shape, try and find out if it's part of an ancient ruin. This one here used to be the base of a pillar from a palace. It's probably not something you expect to see way out here, but it's fascinating that a stone structure like this was able to stand the test of time.
Story time. I'm going to tell you a very interesting story because 800 years ago, this piece of land belonged to the king of Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan. That time, once upon a time, he gave one big size of land to his brother. You might can see it right behind me. You see the lines? Those the lines of the city wall. He built a big city. It's the center of this area, and here is the hometown of Kyrgyzstan. So whatever the win or lose on the battles, he always come back here to experience this comfortable homeland.
In the past, navigating around these wild open spaces was a real problem. Everything looked the same, and there was no markers that could direct you. That's where the Albao first came in. They were once used to road signs and a way to separate the lands of different tribes. So don't be surprised if someone says to you, "Hey, turn left at the third Albao." After the reign of Genghis Khan, the Mongolian people built albaos as memorials for the heroes who fell in war. The weapons they used during combat were placed inside the albao. Later, statues of a Buddha replaced the weapons, and the albao became a sacred place to worship and make a sacrifice to the gods. The best corn, meat, fruit, and alcohol are sacrificed in return for good weather, harvest, and fortune. The tradition is you'll pick 3 stones from the foot of a mountain, climb the mountain with the stones, and when you descend, place the stones on the albao and walk around 3 times before making a wish. If you drink with the Mongols, chances are you won't be spared. It's a way for them to show you just how hospitable they are. And if drinking is a gouge for that, They are extremely welcoming.
OK， 沾一下酒，先是记下肩，记下地，这是。
然后就喝了。
It's very interesting. It's a tradition, everybody know that. When you go to a Mongolia tent, 3 things you're gonna do. One, the hada. It's the most respect one, the blue collar. Another thing, like what they do, you're gonna drink. And this is a tradition. This is like every day. You eat at a Mongolian tent, have to have that. The environment like this is gonna be wonderful, and all the people living in the city will be very jealous. This is the best of the best. The best of the whole best.
If you never heard this sound, I'll tell you this. It doesn't come from an instrument, and it's definitely not from a blowhorn. So what is it? Throat singing, otherwise known as overtone singing, a Mongolian minority traditional art form. The singer changes the sounds by manipulating the resonance created as air passes through his lungs to his vocal cords, then to his mouth. The Marine Corps, a horse-headed fiddle, is the most ancient and significant instrument in Mongolian tradition. Marine means horse, and corps means melody. The legend goes, a magical flying horse was killed by a villain. Heartbroken, his owner made an instrument from the horse so he could remember it. Originally, the handle of the horse-head fiddle was made of horse ribs, and its base fashioned out of horse skin. But nowadays, the horse on top of the nation's most cherished music instrument is made of wood, and tail hair for the 2 strings and bow.
这是四虎的耳朵，
耳朵，一
耳朵是这是这样的。
哦，
这是几千年的有历史。
4根弦是吧？
对对对对。
这个马头琴是2。
马头琴和二胡是2根弦。这个也是咱们那个就是少数民族的长期用的。
符号。那这个呢？
蒙语解释到这是合法的琴了。
合法的琴了。
蒙拉看了。
呀。 Okay, all the things means something. All this, the signs. There's like peaceful, or happiness, lucky. All the signs are traditional Mongolian signs. You can see them everywhere, in the instrument, in their house, in the tent, even those carpet. All designed for those logos. Even here. 这怎么说？
这是耳朵。
那这个叫怎么了？蒙文怎么着？
蒙文的合法的琴了。
合法的琴。
合法的这。
Okay.
You know that when we're talking about Mongolian, that's, you know what I mean, right? You know that, yeah. There's all good. We got more This is real Mongolian outfit. It's a traditional custom. You come to our territory. This is Inner Mongolia. Everybody gonna dress like me. This is a typical way to make a hat, traditional hat. 好像有个什么讲究来的是吧？
对。
我记得说，这什么星月是什么东西？ There's a branch of a Mongolian called Blyat, and they have their own traditions, and there's outfits. It's a little tiny things can tell which branch you belong to. For example, for Blyat, they have the hat have 11 columns on the hat because all Blyat have 11 last names. So that's represent the family, the entire family. 这是太阳，这是光。That means here's the sun, and here it's the sunbeams. So this is another way of wearing it. 我来试试，这对不对？反了，哦，很暖和。冬天。What do you think? If I come out on the street in New York or Beijing like this, what do you think? You know, I feel like a Mongolian. Yeah, even 这走得这么走。I feel like a king. I feel like a king of Mongolia. I feel like a Kang's son. Okay. All the people come over. You. Yeah, that little girl. No. I'm late to what turns out to be an amateur association with a passion for traditional Mongolian minority instruments. Don't be fooled by their age. They're a passionate bunch and they know how to have and show you a good time. Their dedication to this art form is inspiring. The deep sounds of their voices echo through the room, and just being here puts me in good spirits. We continue our journey to the north of a Holland Bear and find ourselves in the midst of a forest, a far cry from the grassland.
Person like me from the city, come to the forest. Any forest is a blessing. Just listen to the wind, breathe the fresh air. By the way, here is not just a regular forest. 1,000 years ago, here is Mongolian military, led by conquest, and passing here go all the way to the Europe.
In the past, each Mongolian horse rider would own 3 to 4 horses. Fast movement. In Genghis Khan's time, once a horse trampled a person, there was no need to kill them because the next few horses would trample the person to death. Along the way, we passed Sanke, a town known for its excellent breed of horses. Look, how peaceful and relaxed they look. I reckon they need some exercise. Oh, I don't think the owner looks too happy. Better make a run for it. We head to our next stop, a little town called Shiwei, and it's certainly small, with a total population of 4,000, now part of the Russian autonomous region. According to the ancient Chinese records, Shiwei is the original place of Mongolian ancestry. There were thought to be 520 Shiwei tribes, hunters and fishermen, who adopted a nomadic lifestyles upon moving west from the forest to the Mongolian lands. Chinese historians named them the Mongols, but they were not the exclusive ancestors of the Mongolians. Other clans and tribes joined them, and gradually they became part of the Mongolian Empire. In the grasslands, the homes of the Mongolian minority were tents, but in the forest, huts are far more practical. It's amazing how these homes are built. Instead of nails, they use wood joints to secure the logs, and they place fresh moss in between the logs to keep out the wind. And because it borders Russia, this Mongolian minority hut could neighbor a Russian-style home. And if you don't already know how much crazy the Mongolian minority are about their equestrian companions, they've even built monuments to remind you.
I have been doing lots of research trying to find this little town, Shiwei, because back 1,000 years ago, this is the beginning of the Mongolia. So I hope you enjoy the program. Also enjoy being with me at this location, very important. My goal has been accomplished. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.
A journey to where nature is at her most magnificent and forbidding. To mysterious places where dazzling and diverse cultures flourish. Where China's numerous ethnic groups draw you into a world of color and vibrancy. Where distinct lifestyles, traditions, and crafts have survived the test of time. Join Travelogue on its 17-part ethnic Odyssey, visiting more than 100 places across China. Ethnic Odyssey, an enlightened look at China's rich ethnic heritage.
In this episode of Travelogue, we embrace the bitter cold and wash it down with some spicy kimchi to give you a taste of life with the Korean minority.
Variety of China's landscape, diversity of its people. Welcome to Travelogue's Minority series. 안녕하세요. That's how you say hello in Korean, and that's going to come in handy for later. We start our journey in a small, quiet, traditional Korean minority village, and we're about to make our journey into their lives.
We start our travels at the place it all began. The ancestors of the Korean minority first came to China from the Korean peninsula in the late 17th century. But it was not only until the 19th century that large groups of migrants arrived and settled in northeast China. At first, it was to avoid oppressive feudal landlords in Korea, but later, famine and warfare launched by Japan eventually became the main reason. The Hailanjiang is a place of tribute, and in the old days, the place where Korean migrants first crossed before settling down. And once they settled, they built houses in the traditional Korean architectural style still seen today. More fortunate households would tile their roofs, while the less financially sound would have thatched straw roofs. Personally, though, I think there's a certain nostalgic appeal about a thatched roof. Chances are, if you visit a traditional Korean minority village home, you'll probably spot bunches of red-hot spicy chili drying outside in the sun. The Korean minority has a soft spot for spicy food. I'm not complaining. Kimchi is one of my favorite. But before you can get to the food, you need to find the door in. In these traditional homes, the doors look the same as the windows, so sticking your head in for a peek might prove to be quite the challenge. Once inside a traditional home, don't be surprised if you find tools that date back and large earthen pots filled with kimchi. Another great piece of equipment are the old water pumps that lead directly to the underground wells. The indoor water supply must come in especially handy over winter. These totem poles are pretty hard to miss. In the old days, the Korean minority practiced totemism and ancestor worship. Nowadays, it's more out of tradition than religion, but you'll still see them around. I'm not entirely sure what these structures are, but if it's the same as the Mongolian albao, I'd best place a rock on the top and make a wish, just in case. Yanbian and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, also known as North Korea, share a long border. We journey along, and from a distance you can see the border. The land might look the same, but if you look hard enough, you'll see the differences in architecture. It might just be a line, but there is so much significance here. And what better way to capture the moment than with a picture to take home to your family and friends?
Whoop, can't go any further. This might look like any ordinary quiet city, but this bridge here in Tumen City is China's East Gate and also the border of North Korea. So if I were to take a couple steps forward, I'd be in a different country entirely. Can't do that.
Most of the time, there is only one narrow stream that divides the countries, and from there you can see the other side. People from the two nations, China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, can go into the river, but they aren't allowed to go into the other nation's bank. The river is common ground. The same bridge looks different on its respective side. It's so surreal standing in China and being able to see three countries with a sweep of the eye. I've always loved being at borders, the place where two, or in this case, three nations meet, and the cultural influences they have on one another. Not to mention the amazing scenery. If I look down, I see traditional Chinese architecture, and right in front of me, Russian-style homes. They really are close by, and there's a saying here in Fangchuan, a rooster's morning call will wake up your two neighboring countries' villages.
This is great. I'm in the prefecture of Yanbian and the town of Fangchuan, and right here is the place where three cultures meet. If you go around the streets, you'll be able to see signs in Russian, Chinese, and Korean. So cool. Right over there, that's North Korea. And over there, that's Russia. And that bridge over there is where North Korea meets Russia. This is so amazing.
It's a slow morning, and we head to Yanji, the capital city of the Yanbian Korean Autonomous Prefecture. It's pretty much like any other small city, but the Korean minority residents here still maintain the same customs and virtues of the villagers with a modern twist. Hello, cutie. It's Grandpa's birthday, and the entire family wishes him good health and prosperity before bowing to show their respect and thanks. Respecting their elders is a custom in the Korean minority, as is loving their children. And for any doting grandparents, it's also an excuse to give the kids a little money for candy. It's not every day that I get to visit and befriend a Korean minority family, so you can imagine how excited I am to get in. Always remember, though, to take off your shoes. You'll probably never see a dirty Korean home. It's customary to keep a clean house, and floors can be swept several times a day. Korean minority especially loves singing and dancing, and even if it wasn't a celebration or festival like it is today, they would still sing together. And turns out, they start at an early age too. You can see how respected the old people are here. Every year on August 15th in the Chinese lunar calendar, there's a festival called the Day of Older Persons. In Korean tradition, the young are forbidden to drink or smoke in front of elders and are expected to walk behind and give way to the elders when they meet. In a Korean minority family, the eldest son will support his parents forever, and a person who doesn't loses respect in the community. But that's not a worry with this family. Ooh, I'm starving. Time to take a peek in the kitchen and see if I can help get lunch ready. Kimchi is a pickled cabbage spiced with garlics, capsicums, gingers, and chilies. I've never seen it made, but it was a ton of fun massaging the chili paste into each layer of the cabbage. Rice and rice-made foods are staple foods of the Korean minority. The rice dishes are usually complemented with a range of hot and cold dishes, ranging from soup, meat pickles, and my favorite, kimchi. Dagao is made from powdered rice mixed with water to create a paste. It's then beaten with a mullet to make it more elastic and give it that sticky, chewy texture. It's the men's job to beat the dagao, and to spread out the work, two men work together. The Korean minority are known for their team spirit, and these two work perfectly in sync to beat the dagao into the cake paste the Korean minority loves so much. I had a couple of goes, but it's seriously tiring. At one point, I even smashed my finger. But I won't show you my pain here. Okay, it's time to give the mullet back. I'm done with this. The next day, we traveled to the town of Wangqing to meet with a fourth-generation master of elephant trunk hat dance. He tells me that in the past, the hats were made of animal skin, but that has now been replaced by steel. And the beads on the hat are from a Korean tradition of using colors to represent youth. And now for a little lesson.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hey, it's not turning very well.
对了，圆圈，对了，对了，会摇了吧？
会了。
就这样就行。
How's that?
But before I ruin the dance for you, this is how it should be done. It's rare to see an outdoor performance smack in the middle of winter, but we were lucky. The elephant trunk hat dance is the highlight of the dance series performed to celebrate harvest time. The men are the lead performers for this dance, while the women control the beat with traditional drums. The dance is energetic and a real pleasure to watch. Watch him go! A ribbon is attached to the top of the hat, and the men use their heads to swing it around themselves and their dance partners. There are two types of ribbon, the short, which becomes the short trunk of an elephant, and the long, which, well, yeah, the long trunk of an elephant. This dance is almost hypnotic, and it's not enough to watch it just once. I could probably sit and watch them swing their heads in a circular motion, tossing lengths of ribbon into the air all day. It's a beautifully synchronized dance that requires excellent neck, head, and shoulder control, and that takes years and years of practice. So it's no wonder that this dance is ranked as a National Cultural Heritage Dance. Back we go to the city of Hongchun. I love the signs that appear in Chinese, Korean, and Russian here. They really show how integrated and accepting these three cultures are of each other. We travel to Korean Minority Middle School to see the place where young minds are formed and young athletes begin their training. The Korean minority have tremendous respect for education and learning, but academics aside, sports is seen as one of the main forms of education here, and they also put a lot of emphasis on maintaining traditional sports. Young girls train for years to be able to swing like this. The aim is to swing high enough to touch the bells. Competitions are judged in two parts. First, the number of times they're able to touch the bell, and second, how high they're able to swing. And amongst the traditional sports, the worldwide favorite sport of football is also especially loved here. Football is especially popular among Korean men, and the Yanbian area has a reputation of being the land of football. Although being on the land doesn't really do much for my skill.
They're not giving the ball!
Turns out these middle school boys can still dance circles around me. What a pity.
The Korean minority are known for their sporting traditions. The boys in soccer, and while the seesaw and the swing are for boys and girls, the girls specialize in it. Look at them training. Good, they start at an early age too.
The cameraman has a go, but he's a little too heavy for the girls to lift. Let's see if I'll do any better.
I can. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
The trick is to jump without bending your knees. Try it, it's not that easy. I'm doing pretty good.
They're a lot better than I am.
These middle school girls have been training on the seesaw for 3 or 4 years now, and it's a graceful sport that combines gymnastics and acrobatics. I mean, look at how high they jump. The girls use props such as fans, ribbons, and hoops to turn the sport of seesawing into a jaw-dropping performance that combines strength and flexibility. As a kid in school, we used to just sit on the seesaw, but here, art is created. But it's not just an individual sport. It involves a lot of communication and teamwork. The girls rely on their partner to push them into the air, while 2 other girls sit in the middle of the board to hold it down, and the others stand guard nearby in case they miscalculate their landing. And we're on the road again. This time we travel to a small village called Mijiang, where there is a national cultural heritage known for the traditional Korean minority instruments. It's a small, peaceful village, and I meet two Han Chinese girls who tell me that they're going to a class that practices traditional Korean minority instruments. I ask if I can follow along, and they said yes. The Korean minority are very fond of music, and sometimes they can be found singing and dancing, accompanied to the sounds of drums and flutes while at work in the fields and construction sites. They might not be at a field or a construction site, but this get-together is a mix of people, old, young, Korean minority, and the two Han Chinese girls who have told me that they play these instruments because they enjoy the sound and beauty of the music. And it's here that they work together to share and maintain the sounds of traditional Korean songs played with traditional instruments. In the winter, it gets pretty cold up here, and by 4:20 p.m., it's usually pitch dark. It kind of threw me off schedule, but it's lucky that I managed to arrive at the oldest traditional Korean minority house located at the border of North Korea and China, right before it's dark out. And judging by the sound of the commotion inside, just in time for dinner preparation. Nothing like a warm fire when it's cold out. This indoor fire is a traditional stove, and it's nothing short of miraculous. Meals are prepared quickly and easily, which was really important for the farmers in the past. Throw in some rice garnished with corn kernels, pour in the water, and wait for it to cook. Sounds easy enough, but now for the more complicated part. Dazzling is a delicious dried bean cake that's mixed with water to form a traditional bean soup eaten at every meal. It takes about a year before these cakes are dried and ready to be used in the kitchen, but trust me, it's worth the wait. In the Korean minority customs, both children and the old are loved and cherished. Family life is a really important part of their culture, and each year there's even a festival to pay respect to the old. While the cooking is being done, the house is heated at the same time. It's such a great way to cut wastage and conserve energy. 3 meals cooked on these stoves will keep the entire house warm throughout the day. Time for dinner, and the food looks and smells delicious. I love Korean food, and there's nothing like a home-cooked meal and some great conversation. Turns out, they bought the house around 45 years ago, and they raised their children here. While their children have all grown up, their grandson, Sigang, comes to visit whenever he can. When I first came into the house, Sigang ran away screaming, but it didn't take him long to warm up. And we're back on the road, headed to the marvelous Changbai Mountain, one of China's top 10 most famous mountains. It's really cold up here, so make sure you wrap yourself up before you come. I went up with about 10 layers on.
It's freezing cold, but I had to come up here in Changbai Mountain. It's a holy place for both the Korean minority and the Korean people. That lake over there was known to be a volcanic crater in the past. Take a look at this view.
and it's a spectacular view. It's definitely the most beautiful part of Chiangmai Mountains. If you look into the horizon, you'll see the clouds that hover lazily over the mountains. The Chiangmai Mountain is made up of waterfalls, rivers, forests, hot springs, and is inhabited by the wildlife. The drive up and down may be bumpy, but you can see why so many battle the cold and the bumpy roads just to get a glimpse of the mountain and the Tianshi Lake. You can get to the Chiangmai Mountain by traveling to the capital city of Yanji and then driving up to the Erdahaihe County. And if you'd like to spend a few days up in the mountains, surrounded by beautiful scenery, you can even camp out or stay in the luxurious lodges.
The Korean minority place a lot of importance in upholding their traditional morals and values, such as respecting their elders, loving their children, and teamwork in sports. I've had such an exciting time being a part of their lives, and I hope you have too. Join me next time on Travelogue. I'm Michelle Lean. Annyeong!
Oops, I meant annyeonghae. That's bye. The cold must have gone to my head. I'll see you next time.
A journey to where nature is at her most magnificent and forbidding. To mysterious places where dazzling and diverse cultures flourish. Where China's numerous ethnic groups draw you into a world of color and vibrancy. Where distinct lifestyles, traditions, and crafts have survived the test of time. Join Travelogue on its 17-part ethnic Odyssey, visiting more than 100 places across China. Ethnic Odyssey, an enlightened look at China's rich ethnic heritage.
In this episode of Travelogue, meet the Tujia people, who preserve their traditional roots but integrate elements of Han culture into their own.
Variety of its landscape and diversity of its peoples. Welcome to Travelogue's Ethnic Minority Special. And today, in the geographic center of China, Hunan province, there is a unique local culture, and that's the Tujia ethnic minority. These people call themselves the local peoples, literally. And today, we're going to explore their landscape and their lifestyles. Feel the serenity and also the excitement. Welcome to Travelogue. I'm Yin! I'm Yin!
The Tujia minority dwell in the Xiangxi Tujia Miao Autonomous Prefecture and some counties in southeastern Hunan and western Hubei. There are 4 groups of minority peoples in this area: the Miaos, the Tujia, the Dong, and the Yao. The way of life of the Miao and Tujia are very similar due to the similar environment, and the 2 groups were not differentiated until 1953. Hunan is a mountainous province with about 80% of its territory covered by mountains and crisscrossed by numerous small rivers. Zuolong Gorge is one such challenging natural barrier. It lies in Guzhang County in the western part of Hunan Province.
The lens is wet, I can see it.
The gorge is shaped by 3 million years of wind and water erosion, famous for its steep cliffs, lush forest, ancient vines, and rough trails. The journey through the gorge is certainly an adventure.
So this is the waterfall, you see. And I'm a little wet, so I'm gonna shut up now. Oh, God. So we just passed by over there. I'm wet. How's the cameraman doing?
After 5 hours of climbing, I can't imagine anyone not being exhausted. But the scenery is certainly worth it.
God bless.
The houses of the Tujia are very functional and similar to those of the Miao. The stilts of these homes allow the people to build houses above mountains and over rivers.
你也抬啊？
Besides twisting gorges, there are spectacular winding roads. The Aizhai Highway is a pretty strange sight, turning at sharp angles in the mountains. The highway runs from bottom to top of the mountain, nearly on one face. This proves the craftiness of the minority people and is a wonder in construction.
What a zigzagging highway. You know, in western Hunan, where we are right now, there are two major ethnic minorities. There's the Tujia and then there's the Miao people, of which the Tujia make up the most in number. And along this highway that connects the three provinces of Sichuan, Hunan, and Guizhou, the most people here are in this area, Miao. But as we head up north, we'll see more and more Tujia.
Following the river, we reach Wangcun village, an ancient village with 2,000 years of history. Wangcun is a village of mostly Tujia people, and hopefully we can interact closely with them here. Wang in Chinese means king, and the ancient village was the capital for the Tujia king. In the 1980s, the famous film Furongzhen was filmed in Wangcun and spread the village's beauty to the entire world.
Wow. So this is the Grand Market, and you see, one cool thing is everyone has their little carry-on basket to carry their goods. Like over there, everywhere.
The baskets the Tujia carry on their backs carry deep cultural significance. They come in different shapes and sizes. Girls' families prepare them with an intricately made basket before marriage as dowry. After giving birth, the woman's parents make her another basket to carry the newborn. I even heard there's a basket that can carry water after it's been coated with a special layer of Chinese wood oil. For the people in the mountains, these baskets are as essential as camels in the desert. In Wangcun, sometimes looking at the faces of the children or the elderly hanging out by their houses gives us a sense of what it means to be Tujia. But the best display of traditional Tujia culture is through the local museum.
Somebody's special wedding night. I wonder how the bride is feeling. Is she happy? Is she excited? Or is she even a little sad? Well, in the Tujia ethnic minority, it's a typical custom for many of the brides to be very sad. They have a singing wedding song, and it's sort of a cry as well, because the bride will cry to her parents and also to her brothers and sisters, telling them to obey the parents after she leaves them for her new family at her husband's house. And this picture right here, you can see that.
Today, it's difficult to find old Tujia ways, but in museums, you can find pure and traditional dress codes. Compared to the costumes of many other ethnic minorities, who often wear multicolored, flowery vests and dresses, the Tujia's costumes are less colorful and elaborate. However, children's hats are the exception. They are oftentimes colorful, bright, intricate, and complicated. There are symbols that are believed to protect him or her from the evil spirits. In the year 940, the king of Chu and the Tujia provincial governor negotiated peace after many years of warfare. Afterwards, they cast a copper pillar as evidence.
Over 1,000 years of history, this pillar. And you see, the most interesting thing are the inscriptions on the pillar. This is all in Han Chinese, and it was actually a treaty between the Han and the Tujia peoples from over 1,000 years ago. And although the Tujia people had a very developed oral language, they didn't really use a written language. So here, the Han characters that people today can still read. Sign of peace, no more war.
This copper pillar still stands in memory of the history of cultural exchanges of Tujia and Han nationalities. And since then, much of the Tujia culture has evolved and incorporated elements of Han lifestyle. On our journey, we also witnessed another unique sight. In few places have I ever seen the red rocks and soil that remind us of Jurassic Park, taking us back to the land of dinosaurs. Different shades of red and different layers meshed in between. The red rocks are over 450 million years old. Originally, the land was submerged underwater, and even today, fossils from ancient organisms can be found embedded in the rocks. And as another center of Tujia culture, we found a small village called Shuangfeng, or Double Phoenix. Feng in Chinese is phoenix, the mythical bird of good omen. Traditionally, the center of every village was the performance center, and that was where the ceremonial sacrifices were performed. The Tujia people are religious people who believe in spirits and in the gods. And where we're standing now, the Baishou Hall, which literally means swinging hand hall, is an important site for where they perform religious ceremonies. There was music, there was a special dance called the swinging hand dance, right here. Here we go. Here, we can see the Baishou dance, and it depicts such things as hunting, agricultural activities, battling, and feasting in life. In all the dances I've usually seen, it stresses coordinated movements. But this one is quite unique in the sense that the movements are in sync. but in sync in the sense that the left arm moves with the left hand. For some, it may appear a bit uncoordinated, but I guess that's part of the charm. These people use their bodily language to pass down the story of their culture and express their emotions. Since Tujia language has no written form, art forms like dancing and singing are commonly used.
This may just look like hay to you, but actually, it's a very important part of a costume for a ritual dance that will be performed later. 先生，你也会表演这个舞蹈吗？你也会。
The old villager told me that many people can perform this dance, and they use it to ward off evil spirits. Maogusi is the primitive drama of the Tujia people. The dance originated from sacrificial ceremonies. Maogusi in the traditional language means old man, and I suppose it refers to the ancient man's relationship with the natural world. A complete performance of this dance takes 6 days. That just proves that their history and culture cannot be summed up very simply. But talk is just talk. Let's take a look at the dance itself. Here, they depict worship for fire, marriage rites, exchanges in trade, and interaction with other people. We can see their transformation from a nomadic people to the gradual introduction of agricultural society. From anyone in the modern world's perspective, this performance is just too pure. The singing, dancing, and drama reflect the origin and migration of the Tujia ancestors. Dance is primitive, but really it seems like a living history book, documenting the Tujia's lifestyle. From beginning to end, the dancers swing left and right, and we can hear the sounds of grass ruffling on their outfits. Sometimes the performance is hilarious, and other times it's quite real. Traditionally, the dance and music is performed by men exclusively, but nowadays, because young men have left the villages in pursuit of work in nearby cities, the performance we saw was done by the elders and even some women. Although it wasn't in its most original form, it was nonetheless interesting. Now we get back to the road, or rather, the water.
So now, a few buddies of mine and myself are now going to actually get on the boat. but we can't leave out the cameraman as well. Let's go. Our driver here says after another 30 minutes, we're gonna see some real water. Right now I could just sort of sit, relax.
For those who are seeking excitement, rafting along the Mengdong River is the thing to do. Mengdong River can be called a source of Tujia culture, as its waters have nursed the Tujia people for over 2,000 years. June and July are the rainy season in Hunan, and with a good amount of rainfall. Luckily, we are just in time to catch the rain. Narrow and swift, the river twists and turns across the limestone terrain, and it's strewn with dangerous rapids. I don't know about this trip on a rubber dinghy, but it's certainly as breathtaking as sitting on a roller coaster.
Okay, right now we're gonna approach a very dangerous spot. You see like the ER people, the emergency people. Okay, I'm gonna hold on now, I'm gonna shut up. Go! I don't know what to say. We're okay, we're okay.
Although this is just fun and games for me, can you imagine that the ancient Tujia people had to conquer the waters and climb the mountains in this natural environment for survival? For us, it's an adventure. For them, it's their home. In the secluded mountains, Tujia people have a tradition of self-sufficiency, producing all the things they need themselves. Under these difficult conditions, the people that resided in these mountains adjusted to hard work and developing a culture that overcame the challenges that nature imposed. The land of the Tujia is certainly beautiful, but a challenge to navigate. Don't forget to bring an umbrella, a good pair of boots, and a raincoat. Amongst the rocky mountains and flowing waters, we can hear the gentle Liusha waterfall. Liusha in Chinese literally means flowing sand waterfall, so you can gather its unique characteristics. Mention waterfall to most people, and they'll imagine something like Niagara Falls, with its loud, roaring water. If Niagara Falls were like a mighty man, then this Liusha waterfall would be a meek and gentle woman.
So here we are right under China's longest waterfall. You see, running all the way from up there. And most surprisingly is we can actually get a different perspective from going under or behind the waterfall and getting a glimpse of this sort of large sprinkler.
The Liusha waterfall is so gentle and delicate that it seems like by the time the water reaches the ground, it's almost become like a dew.
Now isn't that refreshing? Hey, I recognize that. You see that giant stone over there, the rock? It's shaped naturally almost to look like a giant Guanyin, which is one of the most important gods in Buddhism. And maybe that's why the temple down there is called the Temple of Guanyin. Let's go check it out. You might notice that behind me is the Temple of Guanyin. Now, Guanyin is one of the most important gods in Buddhism. And this sort of proves that the Tujia people were multi-religious. They had different types of religions. They believed in Guanyin, they believed in different spirits, and even man himself. In Chinese Buddhism, Guanyin has been popular among ordinary worshippers for the belief that the Buddha is able to save people from poverty, death, and sorrow. According to a Buddhist sutra, whenever those in distress murmur Guanyin's name, the goddess will never fail to come to their rescue. That's why Guanyin is also known as the goddess of great mercy. Even today, there are Tujia people who come to pray in this small temple hidden amongst the mountains. Our final stop is Fenghuang, one of the most picturesque small towns in China. In English, it's Phoenix Town, and it gets its name from a hill in the northeast, which is shaped like the bird. Fenghuang, we find traditional suspended houses. These are two-story wooden structures whose lower stories are supported by several heavy logs standing tilted on the ground, and whose large, wide upper stories lean over the river. Just close your eyes and imagine this place. An emerald green river running peacefully along the old city. Lush green mountains reflected in the water, and beside the river, wooden houses occasionally puffing out some smoke. Silent and serene most of the time, every once in a while, the giggles of young people washing in the river and the songs of fishermen fill the air. After the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the central government initiated a process of identification of distinct ethnic minorities across the country. After 4 stages of this process, the government identified 55 unique ethnic minorities, along with the Han majority. The government then established minority autonomous prefectures to protect and preserve minority culture, allowing them to flourish into the future. Xiangxi Tujia Miao Autonomous Prefecture has always been a mysterious place. Hidden here are secrets, unexpected sights, and numerous stories. It's from the beautiful landscape that we come to understand the Tujia people. And you know, they have aspects of their own culture, but also have blended aspects of the Han culture into their own, making for a more beautiful China. Thanks for watching Travelogue, and see you next time.